Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's had 3 conversations with US President-elect Donald Trump since his election victory. Netanyahu says the two see eye to eye on what he describes as the threat from Iran. His comments come as President Joe Biden is expected to meet Israel's President Isaac Herzog at the White House later this week. Well, Meron Rapoport is an investigative journalist and editor of the Hebrew-language news site Local Call. He's joining us from Tel Aviv. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. Any guesses about what the nature of the conversation between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump might have been?
We don't know, of course, but I think there are some interesting hints there. Netanyahu, of course, bragged about his very close relation with Trump. He bragged before the election and certainly after. And the fact that he's saying that he had 3 conversations with Trump wants to mean that he has this special relation with Trump. And of course, he said that they talked about Iran, which is, of course, very obvious. But at the same time, Netanyahu added something that is quite unusual. He said that he talked with Trump about peace in the Middle, how to promote peace in the Middle East. This is a word that Netanyahu did not utter for the last year, I think, at least, the word peace. I don't know what does it mean. Does it mean that he heard from Trump also things that he didn't want to hear, something about any agreements, maybe withdrawal from Gaza? I don't know. It's too early to say. But I found it interesting that he used this word. It's not a word that he used in the last year.
There's been some interesting movement on the sidelines as well with regard to Hezbollah and Lebanon. Israel's new defense minister, Israel Katz, who's just replaced Yoav Gallant, of course, after he was sacked by Benjamin Netanyahu, is claiming that Hezbollah has been defeated. What is your interpretation of why he has decided to make such a definitive statement at this point?
It's because he is one of the most unintelligent ministers in the Israeli government. So is really very mocked by the Israeli public. He's not respected at all. And in the press, they quoted this saying, and afterwards the rockets fired by Hezbollah right after this saying by Katz. But I think Israel is trying to push to end the war in Lebanon. This is quite clear. The army wants to end it. It seems that Trump wants to end it, and they want to declare victory. And there's even talk about unilateral ceasefire from the Israeli side, hoping that Hezbollah will do the same. I think Israel finds it's quite, it doesn't know exactly how to proceed with the war in Lebanon. It had gains, of course, killing Nasrallah and others, and hurting and taking villages in South Lebanon, blowing them, damaging the abilities of Hezbollah, but it doesn't know exactly where to proceed. And I think Israel would be happy to have this war over.
Just very briefly, sir, I'm just reading that Israel's new foreign minister, Gideon Saar, has said, at least he's quoted by news agencies as saying that we are ready to end the war in Gaza when our objectives are all met. Are we any clearer about what those objectives might be, and how do you think that's going to affect the fate of the captives being held in Gaza?
It's also an interesting saying. Saar is quite right-wing, very hawkish. Of course, it's not clear what these goals are, returning the hostages. But it's very clear that any deal to return the hostages will mean the end of the war and the withdrawal from Gaza. This is the condition set by Hamas. So when he's saying achieving the goals, it's not clear, but it may hint that there is some movement, maybe under pressure by the outgoing Biden administration and maybe the incoming Trump administration.
Meron Rapoport, it's good to get your thoughts on this. So we appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now
you.
is Sultan Barakat. He's a professor of public policy at Hamad bin Khalifa University here in Doha. Good to have you with us again.
Thanks.
Central to all of this appears to be President-elect Donald Trump and what his intentions are with regard to the Middle East. Now, we were talking before we came on here, you were explaining that this is part of a wider approach that he's taking to foreign policy across the world. But with regard to the Middle East, what do you think Donald Trump's intentions could be?
Well, we know roughly what Donald Trump aspires to achieve within the Palestinian-Israeli question. And that is probably, as he has put it, to try and stabilize Israel by giving it a little bit more room within that area. So for him, I think he talks about passing on all the settlement land to Israel. The Jordan Valley also is rightful of Israel, according to him. He would like to see that as the main conclusion. Now, how would he get there? That's the real question. I think the Saudi Arabia in particular will play a very important role in governing what Trump does next. So far, we know that his main focus is going to be internal politics. So he's going to take a go at the deep state within the U.S., purge positions, gain control, etc. Then I think he will turn his attention to Russia and the Ukraine war. Then he's going to have to deal with China. And for that, obviously, now that Elon Musk is on his team, the strategy will change a little bit. But all of these are somehow linked to the Israeli lobby within the United States. And also it is linked to Israel's interest and the United States' interest in the Middle East. And that means that the solution for Palestine, Israel, will remain at the center of his global operation. Now, I think he has grown wiser over the last 4 years, and you could see that from the way he's conducted his election campaign. We believe that maybe the Muslim Arab vote has had some influence on his success, and he will probably want to pay them back by taking slightly more measured steps towards the Palestinian-Israeli context. And as such, we still hold a hope that he will not come in with the same bullish attitude that he had 4 years ago, but he will probably come in slightly banking on his skills for mediation. He will not attempt a one-sided deal as he did the last time. He will probably try to bring the Arabs closer to him, particularly Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, where the cash is fundamental for him to address all his other challenges. And we hope that by doing so, he may have slightly more careful plan for the Palestinians.
I mean, obviously, the role that Saudi Arabia was playing as well as other Gulf nations prior to the conflict that was happening, Israel's war on Gaza, was, of course, centered around the Abraham Accords. Yet, of course, things have changed over the last year. The dynamics have changed. Are we going to see something broadly in the framework of the Abraham Accords? Are we going to see something that is a slight or a manipulation of what the original agreements may have been?
It's probably more the latter, because the Abraham Accords originally were designed around bypassing the Palestinian issue altogether, pretending it does not exist, and ultimately it will be resolved somehow. But now with the genocide that's taken place, the war, etc., it has come back right at the center. And he's got to start with a new plan, maybe building on the goodwill of the Abraham Accord partners, but rearrange the table a little bit. And I suspect, and this is why maybe his Minister for Defense spoke about a victory in Lebanon, the first step has got to be ending the war in Lebanon. Saudi Arabia has a great stake in Lebanon, and they must feel by now that they've achieved enough of undermining not just Hezbollah, but the whole sort of Shia balance in the internal politics of Lebanon. Then he will start by seizing that war. And then I think the discussion with Netanyahu will be about securing the future of Israel. And Netanyahu, from his point of view, he would like to keep a buffer zone in the south of Lebanon. This is why he's going on bombing these villages despite announcing a victory. And he would like to do the same, as we know, in 1/3 of Gaza, the northern third of Gaza. So a lot of discussions now will be going on as to how would Trump achieve a deal with the blessing of the Arab states, but also secure Israel.
Sultan Barakat, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.